Imagine this. You're sitting in an aircraft, a beautiful Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the pride of Air India. You watch the city of Ahmedabad pass by through your window as the engines roar to life. You grip your seat as the plane speeds down the runway. Then suddenly, within seconds of takeoff, the engines go silent. And the last thing you hear from the cockpit is one pilot saying, "Why did you cut off the fuel?" That was the final conversation before 242 lives were lost, making this India's deadliest aviation disaster in decades. But what really happened that morning? Was it human error, mechanical failure, or something far more chilling? This is the story of Air India Flight 171 and the unanswered question that haunts aviation investigators even today. It was June 12, 2025, a quiet summer morning in Ahmedabad. Passengers lined up at Gate 5 for Flight 171 to London Gatwick, eager to visit family, travel for work, or explore new beginnings. Captain Sumit Sabharwal, 56 years old with over 15,000 flying hours, sat confidently in the left seat. Next to him was First Officer Clive Kunda, a young and talented 32-year-old pilot with 3,400 hours under his belt. Both men passed their pre-flight medical checks. Both men were alert and well-rested. Both men had no idea what was coming next. At 8:07 a.m. GMT, the engines roared. Families waiting in the terminal waved at the windows. The aircraft taxied to runway 23 and began its roll. Within seconds, it reached 180 knots, the speed needed to lift off. But just as the wheels left the ground, something unimaginable happened. Both pilots felt a sudden jolt. The powerful engines that had pushed them skyward went silent. In the cockpit, confusion spread like wildfire. "Why did you cut off the fuel?" one pilot asked. "I didn't do so," the other replied. Seconds later, the plane began to sink. The aircraft, now just 400 feet in the air, had no thrust to keep it flying. The pilots desperately tried to restart the engines. The ram air turbine, RAT, deployed automatically, providing minimal emergency power. But it was too late. Within 30 seconds, the aircraft plummeted into the city, crashing into a medical college hostel, exploding into flames, and sending thick black smoke billowing into the morning sky. On board, 241 people perished instantly. Only one passenger, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, miraculously survived, crawling out from under twisted metal and flames. On the ground, at least 29 people died, and dozens were injured. That day, news channels across India showed burning debris and crying families. Prime Minister Modi visited Ahmedabad within hours, promising a full investigation and support for the victims' families. For Air India, which had recently merged back under Tata's wing, this was a blow that shattered confidence and pride. But the question on everyone's mind remained. Why did the engines shut down just after takeoff? Investigators recovered the cockpit voice recorder, CVR, and flight data recorder, FDR, from the wreckage by June 16th. When they analyzed it, what they found was shocking. Both fuel control switches, which regulate fuel supply to engines, had been moved from run to cutoff within 1 second. Essentially, both engines were deliberately shut down. But the pilots' voices revealed confusion and panic, not intent. Neither admitted to touching the switches. In fact, both seemed surprised. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner has manual fuel switches. They cannot move automatically. They require physical force. The investigation explored 3 possibilities. Mechanical failure? Could vibration or a hidden defect cause the switches to flip? Boeing stated no such failures have ever occurred on Dreamliners worldwide. Pilot error. Did one of the pilots accidentally flip them in the chaos of takeoff? The switches are near the throttle levers, but are guarded to prevent accidental contact. Sabotage or intentional action. Was this a deliberate act? Investigators found no indication of suicidal intent. Both pilots were fit, showed no mental health red flags, and attempted to restart engines until the final second. Interestingly, in 2018, the FAA issued an advisory bulletin stating that the switch locking mechanism on some 787 models could be weak, potentially allowing unintended movement. However, Air India never implemented inspections or retrofits for this advisory, as it wasn't mandatory. Could this oversight have cost hundreds of lives? Among charred seats and collapsed metal beams, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, a 29-year-old IT engineer, regained consciousness. He recalls, "There was a bright flash, heat all over my face, and the smell of burnt plastic and fuel. I don't know how I got out, but I remember hearing them shout in the cockpit just before impact." Today, Vishwas continues to recover in an Ahmedabad hospital. His words are now key evidence for investigators piecing together the final moments. The AAIB's preliminary report concludes, no issues with engine design, no fuel contamination, no weather factor, no external sabotage. Only one fact remains. The fuel control switches were moved to cut off by someone or something. But the why remains a mystery. Was it pilot error, design flaw, missed maintenance, or a combination of all three? The final investigation report is expected by December 2025, but until then, families wait in pain and unanswered grief. Every major air disaster changes aviation forever. Cockpit ergonomics, ensuring critical switches cannot be accidentally moved. Regulatory compliance, making voluntary advisories mandatory before disaster strikes. Pilot training, drills for total dual engine failure at low altitude. Switch redesign. Boeing may implement mechanical or electronic locking upgrades. As experts say, safety is built on layers. When even one is ignored, tragedy finds its way through. This is the story of Flight 171, a routine takeoff that turned into India's worst aviation nightmare in 30 years. But it's also a story of unanswered questions. Why did the fuel switches cut off? Why did 242 people never made it home? And how can the world ensure it never happens again? If this story moved you, share it with others to honor the victims, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life documentaries that reveal hidden truths behind world events. Comment below. Do you believe it was pilot error or a design flaw?